So like I say it in this way, which I think is interesting way to think about it, which is before you had a camera on your phone, you never would have thought to take so many pictures.
Yeah, like I have like no pictures of college because of this.
But now that you have it and you've learned how to use it and that, oh, I can take it out quickly, press this button and use it. Now you do it all the time,
Yeah,
right?
and
Now
it's
you're
incredibly frustrating when it doesn't work, actually. It's like the opposite. I'm like, what? I don't have my camera?
your behavior has inherently changed. Now you live in a world where you can take a picture of anything at any time. And that was never the case before. But now that you have it, you've learned how to use that, right? And
Mm,
so like and like even the most average fucking people can take beautiful pictures and do beautiful
yeah.
things and like that democratization is what I think that type of democratization is what you're going to see with AI en masse. Right now, everyone's got a Polaroid camera. So I'll kick things off. So basically, I'm at this AI company called WordWare. We're building tools for people who don't know how to program to be able to build AI workflows and AI agents. So agent is just like a maybe a easy term, maybe even a becoming very quickly a buzzword for what I would consider chaining together and reusing multiple times useful AI prompts. So it's basically prompt chaining, which means like you have a workflow because like first you ask an LLM to do one step and then you ask it to do another step and you ask it to do another step. So,
Hmm.
you know, the easiest way for you to maybe understand it is if you've used any of these deep research models, they are basically chaining together um, different ways to interact with the LLM that you ask it a question and it will loop over that question. It will essentially do some reasoning and tell you its thought process.
Hmm.
So, and then it'll take that thought process, which is like it's referring back to what it did before, and then
Yeah.
it will add more uh, add more thought to it. And then once it's created a plan for what it's going to do like the plan is basically it reasoning through and deciding for your question, what would be the subset of things that would make it the most comprehensive research to answer your question. And then it goes back and does that. And it has certain capabilities like browser use, the ability to search the internet using, if you're a Gemini, you're probably using Google. I don't know what the other guys are doing. Maybe they're using Exa. There's another search engine called Exa. There's a few other search engines out there that are API-ified that you can use. And then, it's basically coming up with that final research output. So if you've ever used a deep research model, like that's kind of what it's doing, right? And
So can I pause you for a second and can I
yeah,
go back before I get lost? So, um, you said WordWare is a way for non-coders to basically create their own AI agents for any task that they want to do, and then you sort of broke down AI agent as a way to sort of create a chained set of prompts that I
hmm
might put in. So one thing that I'm immediately thinking about is when I have a series of prompts into OpenAI right now, often what I'm doing is asking something, getting a response back, refining my question in a way that makes my response better. Hey, I didn't want that exact thing. I wanted you to be more formal or I wanted you to be more casual, whatever it is. Um, and without seeing the first response, there's no way that I could prompt again. So I'm wondering, how do I get to a chained prompt, a place where I trust the chain of prompts when I'm not yet at a place where I am fully trusting the first prompt to give me the right answer that I always need to modify, I feel like. How do
yeah,
you get past that?
yeah. And wouldn't it be nice if there was an environment where you could see your output right away, make a tweak, and then redo the run so you could see it again? And that's exactly what WordWare is. So it helps you iterate on your prompts in a way that you can get to the point where you're comfortable with the outputs, and then you can go ahead and use it for your future needs. And once you've distilled it down to like, here are the inputs I'm going to have every time for this agent, and you've done the prompting, you've done the chaining of different prompts, and you've done all that stuff, and you've verified that the output is good, at that stage, you have an agent. And so then you've defined the inputs and what you want as outputs. And now all you do is give it inputs and it gives you outputs. That's essentially what an agent does.
So I think the other thing that I want to ask about is related to like the consistency of output though for the same input, because sometimes I will give AI the same input and I will get two different outputs. This is particularly true I find with like drawing. Take this image and draw something from it, and I'll give it an input. And if I ask that same question twice, it will give me two very different images, one of which I may like and one of which I don't like. So even for a prompt where I feel that I've gotten the right output once, I don't always trust it to give me the same output again. How do you think about that problem right now? That it's like sort of a non-deterministic system where you can give it the same input and get different outputs. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's hard to deal with. And this is why like we're not like AI isn't there yet in that way. But this AI in general is probabilistic rather than deterministic. Like
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
how it works. And so you're never going to have a world where, well, not never, but like it's rare to have a world where you get to that exact same output every single time. It's more going to be like, how can you get asymptotically close to the output that you want? And with prompting, ensure that, like with prompting, you can do interesting things, especially as these context windows, like the amount of data that you can feed into a model are growing and growing and growing. So like you can, now with some of the Gemini models, you can put like thousands of pages of PDF as the context. And when I say context, all I mean is like if you think of it from the perspective of ChatGPT, what you can enter into a single chat, like that is the context.
Mm,
And that the amount of data you can actually put into a singular, like call it a chat entry, is getting huge. So for Gemini 2.5 Pro, the context window is like 1 million tokens, which is like a huge amount of text
a
that you can put
token
in
is a
there.
word or a letter or something.
A token is like roughly a representation for the number of characters. It's like a few characters per
Okay,
token.
okay.
So like think of it as like it can accept a PDF that is thousands of pages and use that and do, reason around that level of
Got it,
context.
got it. Or a large Excel file or whatever it is. And
Right.
that's per request, right?
Yeah.
So it can do that. Then what you're saying is I could put in a PDF, it could do some reasoning, then I could chain a request on top of that, do some more reasoning and keep going. So maybe we can get an example. I think that might help me
Yeah,
understand
absolutely.
better.
So, we've been doing just for our product, we've been doing a lot of onboarding calls. So customers who are trying to use our product, essentially, we want to onboard them and see any feedback points, like anywhere where they get stuck, so that we can A, improve the product, and then B, also just improve our onboarding process as well.
Mhm.
So, I'll go ahead and show you one of these. So this is what WordWare looks like. It's not like we're still working on the UI here, but essentially the other piece of WordWare that is pretty important to understanding the UI of it is that you're composing in a document format. So rather than having a chat format where you're writing into a chat bot, WordWare operates in more of a document format. And at the very top of any WordWare document, you'll have the inputs, like what are the things that you need to feed it. So in this case, it'll be a transcript. So we have these onboarding calls and we'll record the whole call and we'll get like a transcript of the call. So either via
Mhm.
Zoom, or we also have this tool we use called Descript that gives you a transcript. And then you can also optionally add any of your notes that you took. So with these two inputs, like you can see, this is just a transcript. This is just your notes. And then with these inputs, you can now, and then right below here is the actual document, which is all your prompts. So the full transcript of an onboarding call with a potential WordWare user is below. And this is the transcript. And we've mentioned it because that's one of the inputs. So this is going to insert the entire transcript into this document. It's going to pull it all into here. Use the following structure to summarize each customer call. Use concise and direct language. Put just enough context that other members of my team who weren't on the call will be able to understand. And we're still in the prompt. This is still the prompt. So this is all of the context we're giving to the LLM. I want the background and context. So what is the purpose of the call? How did the customer come across? All these different things.
Got it. Okay.
And we're still in the context window.
How you're probing, you're like writing down here with every call, I want to probe this set of things. And I'm going to write all that down in my, okay, got it. I'm understanding now.
So this is this document is composed in a way that we're telling the LLM everything that we want and the format that we want it in.
So it's sectioned this way because you want the responses to come back in those sections?
Yeah.
Like those questions should come back in another block. Okay.
That's right. So, and then we're telling GPT 4.1, and then within WordWare, you can choose over 90 different models. Every model that's basically out there is supported here.
Mm-hmm.
You can use Perplexity model. You can use, Llama, which is coming out from Meta. You can use the Google models. The Google 2.5 models are the ones that have crazy context windows of 1 million tokens, like I showed you before, right? So you can use any of these models. In this case, for this particular use case, we're using GPT 4.1. This will generate the notes and insights. This block, what we call a block, this is an AI block that we call a generation. So this is where we're instantiating AI. It's a placeholder for an LLM completion. So LLM will read everything above this and enter it into GPT 4.1. So in the version, for any person who's used ChatGPT, this is like hitting enter is this, and then it's going to enter everything up above it.
What did you call it? An endpoint?
I would call it. We call it a generation.
A generation. Okay, so
this is the LLM generation.
It's an output. It's the output from this.
So this is the first step is getting the notes and insights. The second step is a formatted summary. So many of the LLMs, including ChatGPT, if you use it via the API, you can actually get out structured outputs. So what does that mean? Instead of having just like a flow of a bunch of stream of consciousness like you do get now when you're using ChatGPT, you can ask it to format the output in a certain way. So in this case, we've asked it to come up with these 4 different fields. And basically, if you've ever, this is where we're getting a little bit more into the programming side of things. Where if you've ever have you ever heard of JSON?
Yeah.
So you can format it as a JSON object or a JSON list. So you can have a list, an object, and you can have fields. In this case, we just have 4 fields that we're trying to format it as. What's the purpose of the call? Were they able to build the end use case? I think this says the end-to-end workflow, the primary blocker, and then the customer description. And actually,
let me pause for a second. I said yes, but I think I don't know enough to have said yes. Can you just tell me what you mean by JSON?
Yeah,
it's a data structure that's sending things from ChatGPT to your program to allow you to break it up into
JSON is just tags, it's just a way of notation. So if you look at an image of JSON, it will look like this. It will be, this is a object. This has all these different, it's basically a data structure.
Got a bunch of tags in it with the data that you can then pull out. Okay.
Yeah, and a JSON structure looks like this. A spreadsheet structure will have columns that have names and then the data underneath each column and then rows, right?
But basically what's important here to know is that you are getting a bunch of tags that you can pull out of the data.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And you can pull this out in a formatted, structured format. And so if you were going to use this again in the future as something you pull out from an API and you can put it somewhere else. I won't get into that, but basically you can get out this structured format. And then the final step, and again, we're in this document here. The first thing we're doing is we're giving it all this information, including the transcript and my notes from the actual call. And then we're deriving the notes and insights. And then we're getting a structured format, also using another LLM instantiation of GPT 4.1 to get the structured output of the formatted summary. And then the final piece here is, in case I want anything else from this document, I basically instantiated a chat bot here that allows me to ask questions to the response. Does that make sense? Like,
I think
to,
so. Yeah. So I'm asking questions to the notes now. Is that
yeah,
right?
you're asking questions to all the outputs that you've gotten from the LLM.
Okay. Okay. So its context window for this new chat is that output.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So I can probe deeper. I can say, were there multiple blockers? Don't list me all of them, not just the primary. For example, that might be
Yeah.
one way I can
Or
chat.
summarize this more simply. Give me 5
Okay.
bullets. Give me 2 bullets.
Cool.
So things like that. So this is like the basic what you mean when you say what is an agent and compared to like what is ChatGPT. Like this is a good example of what it can do. So let's run it. Let's try it out. So I've got a transcript ready to go here from the last one that I put in, and then I've gotten a few notes that I put in that I actually had. So I'm going to run this flow. It's going to first go through everything and derive the insights. Purpose of the call, how did the customer come across? So you can see here that this is like what we've defined that we want, right?
Yep.
And then it's going to give me the key insights. It even gives me quotes from the transcript, which is pretty cool. So this is all of the initial insights, and now it's giving me the formatted summary. So the call context, were they able to build the use case partially in this case, the primary blockers, and the customer description. Very technical. They don't write production code, but they're comfortable. This is all just deriving from all of the context that I've given it. And now I've got this human input piece where I'm like, okay, give me a summary in 5 bullets. And you see that there's a generation in here that is going to do that piece. So it gives me the 5 bullets that I want after it's seen all this context.
Could you go back up to the summary area, the formatted summary? So this is basically what I would assume most people would be trying to read. Like I'd be inputting all this. The agent is outputting this formatted summary. This is kind of what, if I was going to go back to this call in a week, I think my instinct would be, let me go to the formatted summary. That's the kind of the high level thing I wanted out of this, right?
So let me show you what the output of this tends to be for us. So at WordWare, what we're doing with this is we're keeping all of these customer call-in feedbacks in this Notion doc. And like if I click on any one of these, I have the customer description that I'm copy pasting here. All of this is copy pasted, but you can also use like the Notion API to do this automatically, which is probably the next step here for this, to automatically update all of these. So I'm putting all of this stuff up here. And then I have the full recording as well. So if people want to listen to that, but then I have all of the full notes that it created down here. So when my product team wants to say, okay, Vivek talked to, this customer or this potential customer and onboarded them, what's everything I wanted to learn from them? And there's some of these where I'm like, dude, Tamir, you've got to hear this one. Like you're building product that is directly aligned with what this user asked for. Like go and look at this feedback so you can actually build it to the spec that they would want, right? So that's kind of the end output of this agent is like it's ending up here as this like research artifact that I can then share with my team, and it can be really, really useful. And if I sat down to do this for every call, it would take me forever, right? Like it would take me fucking forever to go through and do in this level of detail in this depth. But with just the simple transcript, I can go and have it basically do everything that I needed it to do.
Got it. Okay, this makes a ton more sense to me. So are you actively using this now inside WordWare for your sales calls?
Yep.
Okay, where are you finding that it's reliable in a way that it's not requiring you to over refine the output? Like you're finding the outputs to be reliable enough. Actually, let me ask a question in a different way, which is I often find like GPTs to be too verbose in a way that's like I like ask it a question and I might want like 10% of what it wrote. I kind of want it to be tighter and then it gets so verbose that I don't read the whole thing. So I really like the formatted summary. I think that's like a great thing that you guys are doing because I feel like that's kind of getting to what I'm asking. But how has that aspect been for you guys working with that part of the
So
GPT?
the easiest thing for you to do is in the prompt itself to specify. Like the thing that I do, if I need, for example, I generate all of our social media descriptions and posts. I do a lot of the formatting through LLMs, and I will ask it for a specific number. I know that, for example, for a YouTube video description, you need 50 characters or less. Like it's just generally accepted rule of thumb. So anytime I'm generating a YouTube description, I'm asking it 50 characters or less. And it can be pretty specific about that. Um, so that's the first thing you can do to actually like help your prompting. The thing that we help with really is when you have these long prompts and chaining prompts together, you're able to see the outputs right away. So how did we actually come up with this, um, you know, long set of requirements that we have here? How do we actually come up with this background context and what we exactly want? Like our initial prompt that we had was probably pretty simple. We probably just said, hey, summarize this call a transcript. And then we read through it and said, okay, this was useful, but here's what I really want. So by
Mm,
enabling you to go and run it and see your previous run and look at what the outputs are, we were able to add additional context in
tune
the
it.
context window to tune it
Hmm.
exactly, to tune it to
Mm,
give us exactly what we want as the outputs for our team to consume.
got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. So this example seems really intuitive now that you showed it, and I get the power of it using this. The other thing that I'm struggling with a little is like how to get creative about the things this is actually useful for. So if you were coaching me on think about your life in this way, okay, and use this kind of prism or lens to look at your work or your life. Here are the types of things where if you're doing X, it would be useful for you to start chaining prompts together. If you're doing this type of task repeatedly, um, do you have a way to think about that?
Yeah, I mean, my mindset in how I approach work has completely changed. And basically, am I I put yourself in the shoes of an executive that has a bunch of employees running around doing things.
Hmm.
Um, that's sort of the way, and you are one, so you know this mindset. So you sort of have to put yourself in those shoes, but you have to know what the LLMs are sort of the hard part is knowing what they're really capable of and what they're not capable of. So at the end of the day, just as an example, like this one seemed really obvious to me. We needed customer feedback and we needed to have calls with customers and watch them go through this process so that we could share the outputs with the engineering team. So what would I do if without LLMs? I thought to myself, and I was like, okay, I'd have to go set up a bunch of calls. I'd basically have those calls, and I'd want to have a certain report that I'd come up with afterwards. And like, what inputs would I need? I'd probably need like at least maybe it's just a video recording, or maybe it's just a transcript or something like that. Um, and I would take my own notes. I would refer back to them. Like, think of all those things that you would do to accomplish that final task. And more likely than not, if they're one of these more repetitive type of tasks that have some analysis associated to it, like you can prompt your way to an output there. And like just as an example, in that example itself, I said a couple of different things. One agent is this onboarding transcript reading, report generator thingy, for lack of a better word. And then the other one that I'd said that I didn't really talk about, but I have an agent for this, which is how do you do the outreach? So I have a list of customers, maybe it's a CSV. I get a structurized output of it using the LLM of here are all the informations about them and their email. And we actually integrate with Gmail. So I can have it pop a draft into my Gmail, with a initial outreach, a draft for an email to that person. And so I have that draft. I can just review it, make sure it looks good, make sure that it has the right calendar link that I want to have in there, and I can hit send. So in that way, like I've now automated both the outreach to automated
Mm,
or at least made my life a little bit easier in reaching out to all of these people. And once I've had the call, the outputs of the call, all of that can be done by my executive assistant, which is now AI, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
you have to think about it in that way,
Well,
I
let
think.
me ask you, you were saying before, imagine that you're a executive with a bunch of people running around that you're having to kind of, help to task or help to make sure that they're unblocked, whatever it might be. Can you complete that thought for me? Like, what was the use case for that executive
So
in
I
this
guess
case?
maybe I'll throw the question back on you. What's an example of something you are like a project or an initiative you're working on right now?
Um, we're ramping the volume of output from our farm. So we're on our next generation of farm. We're deploying the equipment, and uh, we're commissioning the equipment, and then we're ramping up the output from the facility.
So in that process, like how do you in your day to day, how do you go about making that happen? Like there's got to be a set of things that you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I got to do this, 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 and this. Like what's an example of one of those things?
Yeah. An example would be we have a run every day of the equipment, and then we have a log of all of the issues in the equipment, and then we go through and we evaluate which one of those are actual nonconformities that we have to fix, and which ones are we basically prioritize the bugs, and then we go through and we work to make sure that those are fixed by the next run if possible, or have a plan to fix and an action assigned owner and an end date, and then we log those into something like Asana, and then we are working through that Asana workflow to basically say, okay, every week we'll have a summary meeting on bugs fixed, bugs not fixed. Every morning we'll have a quick stand up on what's open. That's the kind of flow. And then you're working to basically make it better every day, as I imagine this is true for most businesses. And then you're trying to also measure your outputs. So how much production are we making per week? We have goals for how much we're meant to produce. And we track those and we dashboard those and we update them to the team. And if we've missed, we say why. That's basically the how it works.
So that's perfect because you have an output from the machine logs or whatever is the errors. You have some human touch there where you're reading through each of the logs and being like, what priority level is this? What priority level is that? Something that you can easily prompt an LLM with rules of what you would go through, like your taste of like, here's the things that I would look for. Here's a list
Mm-hmm.
of those things. Right now you're eyeballing it, but if you wrote those down in a document, you could feed it to an
Yeah,
LLM and it could do the same thing,
it's a good point.
right?
I mean, I have a right now also we because it's a farming application. A lot of them are manual logs written by hand. How good would it be? This is a very specific question, but how good is it at like image to text
Okay,
recognition?
let me show you something fucking crazy. I have a list of notes here. Okay, these are some use cases I'm going to build today. Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to take a picture of it. Okay, I have the picture now. Okay, I have a
Okay.
picture of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to send it to ChatGPT.
Do you have Slack integration?
Yeah, it's a really good
Okay.
integration too.
So images
Uh,
from Slack can go to this
and I'm
automatically.
just saying transcribe. This is just ChatGPT. This isn't WordWare or anything. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
ChatGPT. Transcribe. Perfect. One
Yeah.
for
It's
one.
good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's getting really fucking good, Arv. And I'm sure the wheels are spinning in your head. All I need from you is a product spec, a doc that says, here's a process that we do. When I look through these logs and I need to find an output and give a score or do whatever I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, here's what I do. When you do it tomorrow or whenever you do it later
Yeah.
this week, just write down all the steps that you do.
Okay.
Give that to me and we'll make it into an agent.
I can already think of one that now that we've talked through this that I will send you. It's not going to be the most complicated thing in the world, but I think we'll start
Great,
there
even
and then we
better.
can see.
Yeah,
No, what I would no what I'd like to start with genuinely is you take so we have again we have a daily log that transcribes all the issues that we had in the robot. I want to just and that's a written down log. What I'd like to do is take that, move it into a transcribed chat GPT, like use chat GPT to transcribe it into text, use that to log it by day, and then group it by error type. Basically, automatically tell me, okay, these happened with this robot on these days, and then give me a trend chart on output, I mean, of failure mode, sort of by date, and see how things are trending over time. And I have a year of logs from last year that I
perfect,
want to input into the
perfect.
thing, and I
Love
wanted
it.
to just
Love
highlight it. And so,
this.
yeah, so that'd be great. And because I think, by the way, this dashboarding thing is something that comes up in manufacturing a lot. I'll just tell you, like in every manufacturing setting I've been in, the customization of dashboards has to happen really, really quickly and very frequently reiterated on. And often the best logs that operators can take are manual because they're standing there at the equipment in a factory. It's very hard to keep getting on your laptop. You're like staring at the thing. So a retranscription into a dashboard log I've had to do at every company I've been at so far. So that's a very interesting, like common problem, I would say, inside manufacturing.
That's amazing. And so I guess like just to make sure that I got the message across. Now you just told me an example of a chain of what I would consider as a chain of prompts that you could feed to an LLM.
Yeah.
You basically just told me that in a few words. Now imagine doing that in ChatGPT where you just have this one chatbot, right? It would be really hard. You'd have to do the prompt, then you get the output,
I
you
would do it. Yeah.
paste it
I would
somewhere.
do it once and then I would be like, well, that kind of worked once. And then I would never do it again because it would be annoying to type that every time.
Yes. And so now I think maybe you can understand why the paradigm of having it as a document that you can actually document everything out in, run it to see if it's giving you the right outputs, refine it so that it's actually doing what you want, and then product and like publish it, and then you can use it forever. And you just put in the inputs and you always get the same outputs.
Yeah. I know, I get it now. I mean, honestly, I didn't understand it until we just talked, but I get now the type of thing that could be automated. I think that I'll need to do it a few times to figure out like expand my mind into the other set of things that could be automated. I honestly think that's probably going to be your biggest hurdle. Actually, maybe there's two things that I would say are probably where I coming before this call had gaps in understanding. One is when you tell someone, "Hey, give me ideas for an agent that I could build." To be honest, you're actually asking someone to expand their work. It not make I don't mean do more work. What I mean is you're almost asking someone to think about what are you not doing right now that you wish you could do if you had an augmented assistant. That's actually very hard to be creative and think about because I can think about the things I'm doing now that I want to be easier. But you asked me a little bit of a different question, which is if you could do extra without having to really do it yourself, what would you do? And that, so I'll just say that that part of the reframing for me is helpful, and I'll need to think through more of that. The other thing is one challenge that I think comes to mind again with the verbosity kind of these agents is if you think about your sales call thing, you're taking notes on the call. You, I would want to make sure from your end that if you just took four notes, which was um, good call, worth following up on, main blocker is X, person uses this. You just took those four notes manually and you were really concise and precise about what you wrote down. And then you uploaded the video and said, see 34th minute for more detail or whatever. Ensuring that isn't more valuable to your team than the AI generated output, which is just inherently going to be less to the point
Yeah,
compared to what you could write.
I think
That's
you're
the
right.
thing
I
that I
think
think
you're
we need
right.
to get a hurdle that needs to be got over.
I think you're right. And in that particular example, what we wanted at the time, what we thought at the time we wanted was a detailed summary and a detailed report with all of those things that we had originally added in the prompt, like the background and context and the blah, 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 all those bullets. We thought we wanted all that. At the end of the day, what we're realizing is like, we just want the like five top bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And so the good thing is that this isn't actually a problem of the agent doing the wrong thing. This is just a problem of us not realizing what we wanted and being able to go back and tweak it so that it's giving us the right thing. What you just said is so true, which is like what we want is like the concise, easy output. The good thing is that that's not a constraint of AI. Like AI can do that. The constraint is us being able to prompt it to do the right thing, which is, okay, give me 5 bullets under 50 characters each or under 100 characters each. It will go do it. You have to be very specific about it. The same way you would with an intern. Intern comes back with an entire report. It's 10 pages long. You're like, dude, give me the executive summary, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
But do I fully trust that intern? Like that
You'll have to come, you'll have to do, for the first few times you use it, you'll have to
yeah.
look at the outputs, read the outputs in detail, and make sure that it's doing what you want. And if it's not, you have to prompt out the bad things and prompt in the additional things that you do want.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the important part about
I
this
think that's a
prompt
good
chaining
point.
stuff.
It's an iterative thing. You got to work on it over time. I mean, the other thing that I just as we're maybe closing out this section of the thing, I'm wondering how you think about. So WordWare feels like the I could address any problem with within almost any field with this type of prompt chaining. But obviously, each individual company, like a company in sales, like Salesforce, will be augmenting their software with a sales agent similar to what you just built. So they'll have call transcripts and automated blocker detailing and all this stuff. How do you think about positioning as like? Are you going? Are are you trying to go to a market where I don't know exactly how do you maybe that's the whole question is how do you differentiate between each individual company get better and better at doing their vertical really well versus you trying to do everything
Yeah,
again.
it's a really good question. It's a question that investors and customers alike ask us all the time. I think the first piece is right now we're in a world where the vertical SaaS players are going to have their own AI agents that do specific things. The problem with that is that, and we've already seen it with a few customers where they've deployed some of these things and they don't work well. Like they don't, there's certain things that they don't do well. They need to iterate on it. They want to like do a better job. And it's because the domain expertise of that individual in that company with their very specific requirements and needs looks different. It's not generalizable in the same way that you would want it to be. And
Mm,
so without something like WordWare, where someone can just use natural language to prompt and tweak and change the outputs, if it's just a black box, your results are only going to be generic and not going to be specific enough. And the whole power of AI is that you can make it really specific. So,
mm,
like, the whole power of WordWare is that we see a future where within any company, there's going to be a handful of people that are really good at prompting and knowing how to use LLMs. And they're going to basically instill the taste of what's required for that company in that moment, in that agent or in that product, to actually go get the outputs that they need. Because if I give you, for example, a generic, you know, like even today, like your phone acts as an agent in some ways. You set an alarm, it rings, right?
yeah.
For those very discrete things, it's great. But like it's when there's fuzziness, right? Like make a judgment call in my report on what the score was for the machine operation, whatever. Like
Yeah.
there's, like that's like an inherently fuzzy thing that somebody individual's got to look at and
Yeah.
figure out. Now, like Salesforce or whoever, like whatever company that you're working on out of the box, they're not going to be able to instill that taste that that your technician has right there within their AI agent. Your technician has to know what that is. Like your technician knows what good looks like. So how does that person who doesn't know how to code and doesn't know how to like create AI
Yeah.
agents do that? Well, if they just had to give you a prompt to do it better or give you a list of things that they do to check, give you a list of things that they use, a rubric that they use to do the scoring, then you could actually feed it the right information that it needs to give you the right output.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it's a little bit like saying, "Hey, you have Squarespace. Why does anyone build their own website anymore?" It's like, okay, Squarespace is great, but Squarespace is not customizable in the way that anyone can build their own website, and especially big players or people that need a specific custom feature eventually will need to go to a website developer and have their website built. What you're doing is you're taking that website developer and saying, hey, anyone can do that now. Why would you go to a generic player when you can build it yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
And I
get the
think
argument. I do think it's going to be a training thing for people to start thinking about their work and thinking about their life in like a little bit of a different way with this ability to augment it. It's going to be something that I think you're absolutely you guys are all working on something that's like absolutely going to happen. The question is how quickly can we transform the culture and how people think about their work and how their work could look, and will that meet the speed at which things are changing? And it's just an interesting question. Like, I don't think I will, even having this call, immediately think about all the different ways I could use it. It's not gonna come to me immediately. It's gonna be like a slow, oh, I guess that could also be like, it's gonna come to me over time. And that's a hard thing to just relearn how to think about what's possible.
so. Like I say it in this way, which I think is interesting way to think about it, which is before you had a camera on your phone, you never would have thought to take so many pictures.
Yeah, like I have like no pictures of college because of this.
But now that you have it and you've learned how to use it, and that, oh, I can take it out quickly, press this button and use it. Now you do it all the time,
Yeah,
right?
and
Now
it's
you're
incredibly frustrating when it doesn't work, actually. It's like the opposite. I'm like, what? I don't have my camera?
your behavior has inherently changed. Now you live in a world where you can take a picture of anything at any time. And that was never the case before. But now that you have it, you've learned how to use that, right? And
Mm,
so like and like even the most average fucking people can take beautiful pictures and do beautiful
yeah.
things, and like that democratization is what I think, that type of democratization is what you're going to see with AI en masse. Right now, everyone's got a Polaroid camera and
Yeah.
they call it Chat
Yeah.
GPT,
So the way that you have to then, in that analogy, think about that transition is making it point and click easy, right?
which
That's
is
how
that's
easy it has to become.
our biggest struggle right now is exactly that, is like, that's why we're doing all these user research interviews and stuff like that, is because we want to make the product much easier to use. So in any case, I know we're way over time here, but gives you at least an introduction, right, of like what we're thinking about, what we're building. And the nice thing about working here, even, I mean, it's a very early stage company, and it's fraught with risk, but the big thing that I've gotten out of it is like complete mindset shift, complete mindset change in terms of what's possible and learning how to do that. And the thing that really drew me to it was that, like, I don't have to be a programmer or a developer to build this shit, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can build it. Like I can build it just having my rudimentary knowledge of things. And that's really powerful to me.
No, it's true. I mean, I feel like I got a taste just now of what the future is going to look like. Whether, I mean, my hope to you and the team is that it's WordWare that gets there, or one of the two people that gets there. But either way, it feels like absolutely what we're going to be doing is automating the hell out of all these tasks that we currently don't really see as automatable. We just see them, oh, they're manually, I'll do it manually, whatever. I'll just keep doing it manually. Like you say, that's going to change. The mindset around that's going to change. It's absolutely definitely going to happen in the next couple of years. It's like, just how does that transition look? Um, but yeah, man, thanks for walking through it. Yeah, I do have to jump off soon, but
Me too.
let's talk later.
Um, but yeah, just one follow up is, if you're going through any of those processes today, tomorrow, day after, and you just write down in a set of bullets like how you're thinking about it or what you're doing, we'll build it for you. We're actually doing this content series right now for WordWare that's called AI Professor, which is like, we just take use cases from people who are doing things in
Yeah.
industry and we build it for them as an agent and see what the outputs look like.
If we push this out, let's say we put this on YouTube, do you want people to reach out to you if they have ideas?
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
should they do that?
Yeah, just Vivek at wordware.ai. Just shoot me an email, um, or just comment in the YouTube description, like YouTube comments or whatever makes sense. We'll find it.
Okay. Okay. All right, cool, man. Well, I'll talk
All
to you
right,
later then. All right.
awesome. Bye.